I thought that I would make a video about an interesting thing that I figured out could be done to both save the economy and decrease the number of casualties of coronavirus. But in general, I think there's two core strategies that would be employed. One is just to isolate everyone until a vaccine were created. It would have to be given to everyone, and then there'd be like a certain amount of time for it to work, and then everyone would be immune. Hopefully this thing wouldn't change like every year like the common flu. But there's the two main strategies: is one to try to deal with it with a vaccine, and one to deal with it without using a vaccine. And the vaccine would probably take something like a year. I'm guessing about a year to totally implement. If it's possible that this thing could actually spread faster than a vaccine, so maybe it's not worth anyone's time to attempt to use a vaccine, but I guess that's up to them. So originally my way of thinking about this was that without a vaccine, basically everyone would get it eventually, and then X% of everyone, it would be a fatal case, so that you'd be able to slow down the rate at which, like for example, hospitals overwhelmed, which would have an impact on their ability to treat those people. But you couldn't change the number of casualties. But that isn't completely true, because what I forgot was this idea of herd immunity, and herd immunity is not relevant to the initial state of this virus, but it is relevant to the final states. And the idea is that you have so many people who have had it and are now immune to it because they built a defense of it. People who are in their original condition, which are completely capable of getting it, have sort of a barrier of people who are immune to it around them. Although it is still statistically possible for anyone to get it from any other input source from wherever that is in the world. But as there's more people who have had it, it's less likely to get it, and it might even die out before infecting everyone. So one of the main factors of coronavirus, in fact, one of the things which is probably why most people have isolated at this point, is that it's mostly fatal to the older part of the population. So if you look at the death rates here, 80 plus is looking at like a 15% fatality rate if they have this. I think this there's always some confusion over the number of persons who really have it versus the ones who reported to the hospital. I think these numbers are the ones that have reported to the hospital, but like 15% persons over 80 who report to the hospital is fatal. And you go back down to the numbers under 50 here, and you're looking at 0.04%. So that means that of the ones that go to the hospital, I'm guessing 1 in 200 approximately are fatal under the age of 50. And realistically, that's I think going to be like 1 in 500. So I think it's really crazy, but technically you might actually get less fatalities if you only isolated the persons above 50 and basically let everyone else get it, because you're looking at like something like 20 million, 1/500th of 20 million. So let's take the idea that, let's see, 200, okay. Let's take the idea that 1 in 500 persons under 50 would die. So then you got 4,000. Okay, so I guess you could be looking at 4,000 casualties. Just taking everyone under 50, letting them all get this thing, and saying don't go to your hospital because we need it, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, well, unfortunately, this little graph here, I was explaining how the herd immunity could work, and it's unfortunately a little out of the flow of what's going on, because see, this is what happens if you're not in a non-isolated case. Wrong tool. Okay. So say that you have the way Canada was originally, all those people are in contact with each other. They all pretty much give it to each other, right? Now, if you're in an isolated case, some of them might get it, but they're not in contact. So by the time it's over, then there's a dynamic factor here where these people after getting it, if they're not fatal, they turn into immune people, right? So these guys turn into immune people, and then you get new sick people come along, and they can no longer give it to these other people. So in a way, because you've been isolated and because of herd immunity, you can wind up with less fatal people in the end because of this herd immunity mechanism and the nature of isolation. So what I was saying before, though, is that basically if you just let everyone under 50 get it, they would create this herd immunity for the rest of the population, and also basically everyone who's mostly capable of working or could be assigned roles could go back to work at a very early time. And so I mean, it's crazy, but this thing, it would actually work where if you just treated the above 50 and below 50 as two separate groups, and the 50s totally isolated, not talking to their families that are the younger group, and just basically intentionally let everyone else infect each other, you could actually wind up with less fatalities than just letting this happen, and the economy would probably be in pretty good condition, or reasonably good condition, and you could look up to 2 years with an increased fatality count. I'll end today on some interesting animal scenes I had when I was out walking around some riverside ways that I don't know if it's illegal to be there anymore. So I'm not doing that anymore because I don't want to get paid major money because I'm like walking down a park street or something. So, that.